On today's show, we're speaking with Jamie Crabb about assisted technology. These days, it's becoming more and more a part of our daily lives. Jamie Crabb is an expert in the field with a background in education and technology. He works with students who have specific disabilities and specific learning differences, like dyslexia. Jamie heads up DNA's Training and Innovations team, coordinating and delivering CPD workshops in higher education on integrating study strategies and assisted technology. So thanks so much, Jamie, for coming on the show today to talk with us about your experiences of dyslexia.
You're very welcome.
So I've been really lucky to cross paths and start working with Sandra Hargraves, who you've been working with for quite a while right now. So how did that come about?
Working with Sandra. Okay, so that came about from, I actually studied a postgraduate training course some years ago on teaching adult dyslexic learners in higher education, and Sandra was a course leader. So that's how I came to know Sandra, and I guess since the course, completing the course and beginning my work supporting dyslexic adults, I kept in contact with Sandra over the years, and she often would get in touch with me around assistive technology because she knew that was a particular area that I was passionate about, helping students use assistive technology to, enable them to develop study skills or strategies. And she kept in contact quite regularly. And then it came to the time when she was being asked to do the third edition of the book Study Skills for Students with Dyslexia. And she asked me, would I come on board? Because she was really keen on getting much more assistive technology in the book, and we had a great conversation about it, and we said, look, let's weave assistive technology throughout the entire book. Let's not have a separate chapter, or let's actually actively try and get that all the way through the book so that it could be really accessible and available to everybody. So yeah, that was our project, and really how we really came together in the last I think it was 2016 that was that publication.
Technology seems to be a huge theme that comes up in a lot of my podcasts with guest speakers. Can you talk a little bit around what assistive technology means? We have a little bit of information on our website, but it'd be great to find out more about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess assistive technology is a piece of equipment, a tool, a piece of equipment, a piece of software that can help a learner who might be struggling with something. Now, if we think of it in terms of education, then it might be a particular area of learning, such as literacy or organisation. So where they're struggling with that area, and assistive technology is really a tool that can is like a bridge to help with managing those difficulties or overcoming those difficulties. That's the way I see it. So, I mean, assistive technology can be seen as a broad spectrum in that sense, in that, if someone has difficulties with writing, handwriting, then a pen grip could be a piece of assistive technology. Whereas we go further down the line to more digital things, then if learners have difficulty with spelling or reading, then something like text-to-speech software can be very helpful. So software which will read text back, so that will help the learner to hear. It's a multi-sensory approach, really, to both hear and see what they've written, and be able to proofread and understand where things may be going wrong potentially. So that's it. So that's my kind of broad perspective on assistive technology.
I've used text to speech quite a bit, and I find it fascinating that I can hear the mistakes rather than see them.
Yes.
And Word now has it, which is great because it's free and easily accessible. But are there other ones that you can talk about because I find that Word's a little bit slow, and when you've got a lot of content you're trying to proofread, it can take quite a while. What tools do you think are really useful, particularly if you're at uni or you're in the workplace and you're pressed for time?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's commercial software and there's free software. So the commercial software, such as Text Help, Read and Write Gold, or Claro Read, these are pieces of commercial software, which are excellent. You know, in really industry standard pieces of software, which have a number of different voices, have all sorts of tools included, such as advanced spell checkers and homophone checkers. So that's really great. So it's all this is integrated, as well as the, you know, being able to read back the printed text as well. But also they include certain tools such as what we call optical character recognition software, OCR software. So essentially what that is that it will allow you to take a scan of say, for example, a chapter in a book, and run that through the OCR software and turn it into readable text. So, which is great, because then you can do all sorts of things, such as turn it into a Word document, put lots of spacing in between the paragraphs, change the alignment, the font size, the background color, all sorts of kind of customization to really make reading more useful and meaningful for the way that you like to read. So that's the commercial software. And then there's, on the other side, there's lots and lots of free software now. So on iPhones and Android devices, you know, text to speech is actually built in now into the phone, so you can really easily read emails and any kind of documents on your phone or tablets using text to speech. So that's built into iPhones. And then there's trying to remember what the I can't remember the piece of it, but if you look up text to speech in the Android App Store, you'll find, you know, there's lots of free apps. So essentially, text to speech is just becoming every day now. Everybody can use it. It's really it's there. It's on your phone. It's really exciting time to when I started out 10 years ago, which is, you know, it was a very different time, really. Yeah.
So how did you get involved in this 10 years ago? What drew you into this space?
What drew me into this space? Well, I was studying my master's at university, and I was struggling, like a lot of learners. I was struggling and wondering why I was struggling. And a colleague of mine who had a dyslexia assessment said, have you thought of going and having a dyslexia assessment? And I scratched my head and thought to myself, no, I haven't actually. But some of the difficulties she was describing, in particular, I was struggling with, which was kind of processing information and organizing my ideas. These were the things that I was really struggling with. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go and check this out. And so I had a screening, and I had a full diagnostic assessment, and the outcome was that I had dyslexia and dyspraxia. And I guess that was really the start of my journey, and I began to be able to access some support via the Disabled Students Allowance, which is a grant in the UK for providing support for learning in higher education. And I had great individual tuition, one-to-one study skills tuition to help me with some developing study skills, and also assistive technology training. And I guess at the end of that, I was kind of working in and around academia at the time, and I thought to myself, oh, this is really interesting work. I really like this work, and I like the kind of relationships that you can build with students, because I strongly believe that that's one of the most important things actually for learners, is actually developing a relationship where they can build their academic self-concept. This is really important to me, and that's kind of what took me into the journey, really. So that was my story and I've become very involved in this area of work in higher education over the past 10 years.
So how did you feel when you had that diagnosis? Because you would have been a young adult at that.
Yes, yeah, I was. Oh gosh, I would just can't remember what age I was. It must have been 35. Sorry, not 30, 25. Well, a bit of disbelief to begin with. I didn't believe it because I was like, well, why haven't I been diagnosed earlier? But then I started to think about it, and a lot of the struggles that I had at school really make sense. You know, I really struggled at school with certain things, and so it was like shining a light. Really, I was able to look back and kind of go, "Oh, okay, now I understand why I didn't complete my first master's course." You know, I kind of left the course thinking I wasn't bright enough, um, and at the same time, though, it was, you know, also quite stressful, I suppose, to learn this right in the middle of doing a master's course, because there was lots of things to understand and learn. But I suppose it was, you know, in many ways enlightening, because I was then able to kind of grab hold of myself and kind of go, okay, I need to understand this in order to help myself, and I can develop strategies. And, you know, I can probably say, you know, since that time, I've been constantly developing ways of working that are better for me, you know, because I know what I struggle with, rather than it being not really something I understand. Yeah. So I guess that's a long and short answer.
Well, we were at similar ages when we were diagnosed.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I wasn't assessed for dyspraxia, though I've always been pretty bad at sports and coordination. So can you talk a little bit about how that impacts on you? Because we talk a lot about how dyslexia impacts on people day to day, but we haven't really had an opportunity to talk about dyspraxia before.
Sure. Yeah, I think, you know, dyspraxia, I think it's certainly in the UK, it's become it's become more in the news, and I think because it's something that's significantly undiagnosed, in that people with dyspraxia are often missed. Whereas dyslexia, I suppose, it's when someone is dyslexic, it's clearer, because they have difficulty with kind of specific literacy skills, such as phonological processing, auditory memory, and it's, you know, this shows up really clearly generally in kind of reading and writing and spelling ability. Whereas dyspraxia doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's interesting with dyspraxia, quite often you'll find that people with dyspraxia have got very good their ability to read, as in, you know, read for meaning is pretty good, actually. Now, this isn't, you know, across the board, but generally that's not such an issue. Spelling and isn't such an issue. But handwriting is often an issue. And this is due to, I suppose, the difference between dyslexia and dyspraxia, because dyspraxia is the kind of definition of dyspraxia is a difficulty with a kind of a historical developmental difficulty with gross or fine motor movement, or both, essentially. But what also comes with that is some other areas of, I suppose, cognitive difficulties, which will be visual spatial skills. So things like map reading, coordinating the body in space. So people who are dyspraxic will often say they were kind of clumsy when they were younger, knocked things over, you know, maybe had difficulties with things like tying their shoelaces, but they'll also have difficulties with other visual spatial skills, such as telling the time. And then there's other cognitive elements of dyspraxia, which are to do with organizing ideas. So I see dyslexia as to be doing with the auditory realm, so being able to hear and process and sound out, essentially. So it's that sound, it's the auditory realm, whereas dyspraxia is also what I would call the visual spatial realm. And I often, when I'm explaining to students, because I also assess, is say, well, actually with dyspraxia, it's the visual spatial realm that is which is challenged, really. And it's almost as though there are just so many ideas that are floating around for somebody who's dyspraxic, and because this visual spatial realm isn't so strong, it just is jumbled, and it can become very, very overwhelming. So with dyspraxia, the really important thing is to get ideas out, or get information out. It's so important. So things like mind maps, or organized lists, or calendars, you know, because people with dyspraxia often difficulty with time and organizing. So getting every visual, any kind of getting information out, lists, you know, writing lists, writing notes as thoughts come out. So important, I think, dyspraxia.
It's really interesting because it's a lot of, like they say with people with dyslexia, they've got poor organisational skills, or
Yes, yeah.
they can't read maps and
Yes.
lefts and rights, which is kind of spatial as well, isn't it? Your left.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Sylvia Moody, who is a late Sylvia Moody, who is a very well-respected educational psychologist, created something called the dyslexia-dyspraxia continuum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be able to actually send it to you, Shay, because I actually rooted around for it this morning. But basically, she shows how on this continuum, dyslexia and dyspraxia, you know, are on this continuum essentially, and it's not one or the other. Generally, we are somewhere on the continuum. So I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic, so I have some difficulty with phonological skills as well. And actually, very interesting with dyspraxia, one of the key things when we are assessing dyspraxia is it can be the speed of phonological retrieval from memory. That could be the issue, whereas with dyslexia it's actually phonological processing per se, you know, actually see, you know, so it's so there is a lot of overlap actually between dyslexia and dyspraxia. It's not so straightforward as they say.
No, it's not. And it's interesting because I thought that dysgraphia was with your poor handwriting.
Yes, yeah.
Own term as well, but then it's linked then to dyspraxia.
Yes, yeah. Well, absolutely. So it's all on a kind of continuum of neurodiversity, I guess.
Yeah. So what are some of the strategies you use? Well, there's two things really. One, how do you assess dyspraxia? Is it the same as being assessed for dyslexia? And then what are some of the strategies that you've put into place since you've been diagnosed with it?
Sure. So how do we assess dyspraxia? Well, we do that in the same way, essentially, as dyslexia. So that we run the same tests, essentially. So we would do a very detailed history with the client, and we would be looking for you know, when we assess, we're looking for a wide range of specific learning difficulties. So we wouldn't be just looking for dyslexia or dyspraxia. We'll be working with an open mind. So we do a very detailed interview with somebody, and we'd be looking for what's coming up in there about the history in terms of school and adult life. And then we would run a number of different tests, which would be the same. So we run them for dyslexia and dyspraxia the same. So, and we, you know, for someone with dyspraxia, there's probably, there's likely, should I say, to be difficulties with visual tasks, more visual spatial tasks, handwriting tasks. So that will show up usually, and also speed of processing information. What we often find is the speed of processing visual information. So when doing visual tasks, that's an area of specific difficulty with dyspraxia. So what we do is we'll look at the whole profile together, including the interview, and we'll put the puzzle pieces together, and at the end we'll be able to work out that puzzle. And the second question, what was that? What have I developed? Yes.
What are your strengths?
What are my strengths? I mean, I know I'm actually I would say I'm quite a logical thinker as opposed to a visual thinker, which is unsurprising given you know, I have dyspraxia. So I kind of like to think in organized ways. So lots of lists is something I do. I use something called Google Keep, which is a place for just putting lots of different notes and checklists. And then I also have a more organized system called Todoist, which is a very structured listing system where I can put tasks down and break them down into subtasks. So that's really important for me, because I'll grab things as they come into my mind on the go. So rather than getting jumbled up, I know they're somewhere and I can relax. So that's really important. And calendars, I wouldn't survive without my calendars, and I wouldn't survive without maps either. Google Maps is like I don't even know what I did before Google Maps. I think I must have just walked. I mean, I remember printing off like lots of maps and then coming out the tube station and just trying to work out what way it was. You know, it was impossible for me to do that. So I love now. I've just got a little arrow and I just walk in the direction of the arrow.
Yeah.
And all sorts of, so I love mind maps as well. I can really use those to just get and plan out the structure of something. You know, it's really helpful. So interestingly, often it's for dyspraxia, it's often using visual things in order to, I would say, compensate for this area, which doesn't quite visualize in the way that it would be great to. Because often with dyslexia, a lot of students, not all of course, because dyslexia is very different, but people will say, I have really good visual abilities, I can visualize things, I can do all that stuff in my mind. And so those are the kind of strategies that I use.
Yes, we talk a lot about Google Maps. We've had a lot of guests.
Fantastic.
You talk about getting lost in car parks, and my sister had to help me with the Melways because I can't read a Melways, but she would be able to read.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I'm the same as you. I would hold a map upside down and back to front and just be
Yeah.
so disorientated.
Yes.
It's good to hear I'm not the only one. It's really reassuring when I get to talk to people and we have similar experiences. It makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I think we're not the only ones. There's lots of people who struggle with these things, and that's what's so exciting about, you know, this mobile technology now, is that everybody can use this stuff, and it's just really empowering, I think, to have this technology to help. It doesn't really cost very much either. You know, it's really accessible in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think I would have got to where I am without, well, my family and technology, really.
Yeah.
So we've said before how lucky we are to be living in this century with all the amazing things that are happening. Are there any apps in particular that you use?
Any apps that I use?
Or that you suggest to your students that would be useful for them?
There's quite a few apps actually. I think one thing that's very, very useful now is the ability to be able to scan on your phone. So you can scan books or chapters from books and things like that on your phone, or paper stuff. So I think that's great. So there's I don't know if you know Dropbox very well, but in Dropbox there's the ability to scan documents now on Dropbox, or you can use something on the iPhone called Evernote Scannable, or on Android devices got Cam Scanner. So this allows you to kind of take scans of chapters from books. And then this is what I personally do, because I'm studying still at the moment. I'm studying my postgraduate in counselling and psychotherapy. So what I will do then is I will put these scans through a free online piece of software called RoboBraille, which basically will use OCR technology to be able to turn these these chapters into text that I can highlight, annotate, use text-to-speech software. So those are two really important, powerful tools, I think. They're excellent. I also use something called Audio Note. It's by Luminant. So if you Google that, it's Luminant Audio Note, and that is an excellent tool for recording. So anything that's like a lecture or etc. And then what you can do is you can actually type at the same time, and it will kind of put timestamps, so you can kind of jump to different sections of your recording. And you can also doodle, which I particularly like. So you can do drawings, which I think is, that's really great to be able to do that if you want to. I want to take pictures of the board and that kind of stuff. So it's I think it's something like £5 per year, which I think is such a great price for a brilliant tool. Tasks lists, as I said, they are brilliant. Google Keep is excellent if you like sticky notes in particular. It looks like a virtual board of sticky notes, which is fantastic if you like something straightforward. you know, like that, then yeah, it's brilliant. Oh, so many. I could just talk forever about apps.
Well, I think
How about you?
well, you know, I don't use a lot, which I probably should. I think I've just put strategies in place, but in saying that, I have human people that support me. So people
Yeah,
help edit my work.
fantastic.
Yeah, when I say people, it's mainly my mum.
Yeah.
A principal at a school, so she's very busy, but normally it'll be my mum, or I have a great network of friends that will help me with my writing. But I have started using text-to-speech, and I was trying to find, because I'm doing my doctorate, something that I could put my readings onto, because I found there's a lot of readings that I couldn't keep up with. Find something that I could upload that, so I could sit in bed or on the tram and just listen to all the, rather than having to try and read it myself.
Fantastic.
So I will put a list of all your great suggestions on the website so people can have, we have a small section at the moment, but nothing as comprehensive as what you're talking about right now.
Sure. Well, I mean, you can check out, we have I work for Diversity and Ability, which is a social enterprise for supporting adults who've got dyslexia, dyspraxia and other disabilities as well in higher education. And they have a fantastic resources section, which has loads of assistive technology, and that includes some of the free stuff that I've been talking about today. So you can link that resources section, if you like, Shay, onto your website, so others can access that, because I recognize what you're saying. It's quite hard to, and especially having to reinvent the wheel, which actually, if others have done the work, then you know you can just get benefits from that. So I'll send you that so people can have a look and explore you know, these tools.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Have you used a reading pen? I've heard that they're quite good for students when they're at uni to highlight different.
Yes, I haven't used them personally, but I have colleagues who have come across them, and they're getting fantastic now. In fact, they're I think they're being recommended now as a tool rather than a reader, as in a human reader. So the idea of a reading pen is you can literally move your pen across printed text, like a question in an exam, and then it will read the question back to you.
Right.
Essentially. So, which is great. How fantastic is that? You know, really powerful. Excellent.
Because I've found that I've gone off on tangents with assignments for uni because I've misread the question and thought I've read it right.
Yeah.
Have got feedback from lecturers saying you've kind of missed the point here, and I don't really realise that I've even misread the question to begin with.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know what these reader pens do as well is they'll give you a definition of words. So particular words. I mean, I know myself having. I remember in school, I went into an exam and I read a word wrong, so I wrote the essay differently to how I should have written it because I read this wrong. You know, the definition. Yeah, very easy.
So how would you assess? Do you do an assessment of what type of assistive technology would be useful for a student, or do you just kind of give them a list of things and they go and they find what will work for them?
I mean, I have quite a good understanding of assistive technology, so I will, you know, make suggestions to students about, you know, things that they might like. But, you know, it's very, as with, you know, all specific learning difficulties, you know, it's very specific to the individual. So it's a question of, you know, I'll work with a student and we will kind of identify what the learning strategy or need is. So it might be, let's say, note taking. And then we'll look at the different options that might be available in terms of that, in terms of the strategy. So what note taking strategy do you use currently? What are the different strategies that are available? And then looking at the technology that we can apply to that, and looking at the different types of technology that might be applied to that as well. So I often see it as quite a problem-solving approach. I've been a very interesting piece of work I've been doing is with a PhD student for the past year and a half, and you know, it's been very much because it's an ongoing piece of work, we've been looking at a variety of pieces of software over the duration of time and trying things out. Does this work? Does that work? Oh, well, let's try this one instead. And it's kind of a problem-solving approach, really, which I think is the best way. It's about the student going away, trying something out, or we'll try it, we'll work on it together, go away, try that out in between, come back, we talk about it, reflect, how's it worked for you? Okay, that doesn't, let's tweak it a little bit and work towards what will be most useful. And in that way, you kind of develop something that focuses on, strategies and technology and bringing them together. Because if they don't come together, something doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Yeah.
Your students are very lucky because we don't have anything like this in Australia at the moment. So it's really just go and find your own support mechanisms and really, which is why we're having these podcasts and the website to try and.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I mean, because there's I think there's a lot to take from what's going on over here, I suppose. So I hope that I hope that things can develop really from what you're learning, I suppose, from the UK, and perhaps there'll be a sea change because it would be great. Because at the end of the day, everybody once they find what works for them can do really well. So it's such a good investment to invest in people in skills and development. It's actually money well spent, and can really help people to really engage in life and in the workplace and study and etc. So I feel really good about the fact that we have the disabled students allowance here in the UK actually, and access to work, which is for in work, which can help. It's it's a really good scheme, and hopefully Australia can follow suit soon. It would be great. Well, but you're doing great work around that, so that's brilliant.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's what we're hoping to do, and that's our ethos, is if people have the right supports, and really regardless of what they want to do, they should be able to do that. Just getting them the right supports in the first place. That yes, we are learning a lot from the UK and hoping to model a lot of what we learn and put it into the Australian context.
Great.
So are there any top tips you would like to leave with our listeners around assistive technology, or how you manage with both dyslexia and dyspraxia? Though most likely we've all got a bit of both if we've been diagnosed with dyslexia. But, anything you'd like to...
Top tips, assistive technology. Well, look, just if you're struggling with something, try and work out what it is. What is it exactly? If I can really boil it down, what is it? I'm struggling with writing, or I'm struggling with taking notes in lectures, or I just really sit and rather than panic, just sit and go, what is it? What is it that's going on for me? Okay, I'm struggling with this. And then it's about thinking, okay, well, there are strategies out there that I can look at for, say, spelling or proofreading, or something else, organisation. So there are strategies. Let me go and have a look at what those strategies might be. A good start, the book that Sandra and I wrote, Study Skills for Students with Dyslexia. I have to say, it's a really brilliant book, and it goes through different study strategies that can help. And then it's a case of going, well, what technologies out there that might be able to help me with this? So that would be my kind of 3-step process for working on developing and integrating assistive technology, really. In terms of kind of top tips, just in terms of dyslexia, dyspraxia, and other specific learning difficulties, I think certainly my thinking and my work recently has been thinking a lot around shame and in educational self-concept. So how we come to feel about ourselves in education. And from my own experience, I spent probably many years thinking I wasn't bright enough, and that really was that was really detrimental for me. So and what would happen with that is that I would run away. So I'd run away from things. So I guess my key thing that I would like to say to everybody is, don't run away. Actually, run toward. because when we're struggling, we need support and somebody to listen to us, and let's challenge those patterns of running away. We've run away for long enough, actually. It's time to ask for help and seek out help, because help is always there. And let's talk about what's going on. Let's try and put it into words, because there's not enough people who are talking and putting the struggles into words. And actually, by doing that, we'll build bridges with other people, and we'll learn that actually there's lots of other people who are struggling. Usually, let's face it, they say it's 10% diagnosed with dyslexia. That's diagnosed. Okay, that's diagnosed, but actually there's probably a lot more people out there who struggle. And one thing I've learned when I start to talk about things I struggle with, generally in a room full of people, a lot of people will kind of laugh and kind of go, yes, that's me too. And a dialogue happens. So I think kind of challenging this educational shame that we've developed. Let's stop. Let's not run away anymore. Let's get our voices heard, and we can be heard, and let's reach out. That's my advice.
Well, that's a fantastic way to end our podcast. Very inspirational, and everything you said resonated with me. So thank you so much.
Please.
Really appreciate your time, Jamie. If you'd like to hear more about the work Jamie is doing, or any of the assisted technology that we've discussed today, head to the Dear Dyslexic website to find out more. We've also just launched an assisted technology fact sheet, so head to the Dear Dyslexic website at deardyslexic.com to find out more. Also, if you haven't already done so yet, make sure you sign up to our mailing list so you can keep up to date with all the work that we are doing at the Foundation. Head to deardyslexic.com. And don't forget, if there's anything you've heard today that you've found distressing, you can contact Beyond Blue 1300 22 4636 or Lifeline 13 11 14. Thanks for listening, and until next time, bye for now.